Hi, I'm Bev Salt, and welcome back to the Salt Sessions Season 2. It's so good to be back. Today I have Louisa Dunbar from her agency, Orange Grove, joining me. What made her different to other web developers and agencies is that I found that she specialises in behavioural science to create high performing websites. I'm going to ask all my guests to introduce themselves because I'm sure they can do a better job than I would. So, in 30 seconds, please can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Louisa Dunbar, as you said. I run, as you said, a website consultancy called Orange Grove. And we, having gone from being web agency, we are now specialising in turning clicks into conversions, into customers through this behavioural science informed program and audits. And it's all about helping digital marketing teams to reach their growth targets a lot faster, but also to have much more fun doing so, because let's face it, behavioural science is quite fun and interesting.
Thank you for that. And with B2B companies, there's no point in spending thousands of pounds on a website if it's not driving many conversions and if there's low engagement. So, the thing I'd like to know, I've been looking at statistics for what is actually a good conversion rate for a B2B website. Generally, I'm getting a figure averaging between 2 to 4%. In your experience, Louisa, does that seem about right?
Yeah, it's always a difficult question that, although B2B is an industry in its own right, there's such a vast different array of companies that fit within that industry. And within that, there are different types of, it could be software as a service, it could be service business. So there's lots of different conversion rate standards, I suppose. And if we take a different industry, for example, e-commerce, retail, we've had clients who, that a very good conversion rate for them is 2%. Whereas we have another client who we increased their conversion rate from within that same industry from 8% to 10%. So there is no standard. I think it's fair to assume. And you've just got to work over, looking back at your averages and determining whether that's good enough for you. If it's not good enough for you, you're not getting, the growth rate that you're after, then take that on its own merit. Try not to compare too much to competitors or other industry. Look to analyze what can be done about your conversion rate and make it the best it can be.
Yes, and how can people do that through their analytics data?
How they can check out their conversion rate. It's all about having the correct data set up, so the tracking through Google Analytics. There are other platforms, but that's still the most popular one. And whether your main conversion is gathering inquiries through a form, make sure you've got your events set up to track that accurately, or whether it's downloads you're tracking, or newsletter signups. It really does depend on the type of business, or if it's a software as a service one, then it's signups, isn't it? So it really does depend. It's very important to get that data tracking set up. As boring as many people might find it, sadly, it is imperative if you want to take growth seriously and measure your return on investments as well.
Definitely. And there's a saying that first impressions matter. So, in your opinion, what elements of design create an impact within the first few seconds of a user landing on your website?
Yeah, I love this subject, because if you've lost somebody when they first come onto your website, if you haven't instantly grabbed their attention, then that's it. That it is so important. And it's the hero effect, essentially, which is that we have a gut feel about a website when we first go onto it. And that opinion is made up of hundreds of biases that we collect over our lifetime. But there are definitely things that you can do to increase the chances of capturing those people and making a good first impression. And the things that go into that are, the design, yes, but it doesn't have to be a fancy design. All it has to do is instill trust in the user. If they come onto the website and they feel, okay, this feels genuine, this feels like not a spammy or a spammy website or a spammy company or a very small business just trying their luck. There's lots of things going through people's minds, and as long as you can kind of prove your worth by having a website that is just, it just looks professional. So a logo that, it doesn't need to be fancy, just looks like it's done professionally, not in Word. And a clean, clear design, something that's easily digested. So you can take it all in really easily. There's nothing that kind of distracting on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an overarching thing. The other aspect is to be very clear with your messaging. So they need to know, are they in the right place? And the most important thing with that is just saying exactly what you do. So what is it that you do? So for example, on our homepage, we've got a little box said conversion optimization. And then we go off and, elaborate on that a little bit more in our value proposition. So I would very much say that the design is key, having a really clear value proposition, which says exactly what you do, but also how you do it and why it's important. And you can have key messages of resonance in there as well. But yeah, it's about capturing them through that messaging. And that messaging can be hopefully summed up in some way with a graphic. So this is like the hero area we're talking about here. So they'll have a graphic to accompany it or a photo. And that photo needs to be, or that graphic needs to really be relevant to the thing that you are selling or
Would you recommend stock imagery, or would you always advise people to use their own photography?
Yeah, I would always recommend people use their own photography. People know stock photography; they can sense it a mile off. So where possible, use real photography. If it's a matter of, oh, we can't get this website live without stock photography, just put the stock photography up there. Okay, so there's obviously good beats perfect in a lot of ways, but it's important to have that, the ultimate aim, to get your own photography, because stock photography, although it looks professional, it will never perfectly capture what it is you do. So that's the important aspect to remember there.
Yeah, and for B2B, I guess people like to see who they'll be working with. So they like to see you because it's all about connecting with people on an emotional level. And so people do like to put a face to the name. On your own site, you refer to a smart website. Can you tell us a bit more about what is a smart website?
So I've been around for a while in this industry, and over the years, we've worked with hundreds of businesses and have seen basically over that time what works, what doesn't work. And I was reflecting on it, thinking, okay, what are the common denominators that really stand out across all these websites that are getting the best results? And of course, every marketer loves a framework. So put together a framework that encompassed that. So, and it spells out smart, which is quite handy. So this represents our smart framework represents the elements that go into a website that is a high performance website. And we call those a smart website. So the ones that get it all right are smart websites, smart sites. And to go through that framework, so we've got S, stimulate, move, A, attract, R, reassure, T, timely. So stimulate essentially is about that, building that connection, having resonance with your audience. So that's a lot about the messaging, making sure that's right, the imagery that supports that, and how that all comes together. There's a lot of elements. I don't think we've probably got time to go through this in too much detail. Move, that's all about how you motivate the user to take action. So how you get them from, the homepage or the landing page, and where, the next logical steps are in that journey to get them to that ultimate goal of conversion. So, and how you do that might be through nudges, that it might be through, just a really well-planned user journey. Attract, this is about how what we mentioned earlier in terms of that hero effect. It's about creating a design and how we can make it really appeal to the audience, because there are going to be people who fit into groups. Your target audience are in their groups, but they are often going to have a similar kind of background. Their personalities may be similar. They're going to be drawn to things, very similar things. And it's also about being mindful of other background, elements such as where they grew up in the world, cultural influences that might help that might lead them to, such as a colour that might resonate more with them than it might do someone in another country. So it's about kind of bringing together all those ideas to create a website that is going to look good in their eyes. So, and it's all about the target audience in their eyes, not about the stakeholders. So that's really important to remember. For Reassure, that's about creating a website that builds that trust. When somebody visits it, they can trust that you're going to do what you're saying you're going to do. And yeah, you can do that through things like social proof, through testimonials, case studies, accreditations, reviews, whatever it is. There's loads of tools in the arsenal that kind of do that. So yeah, those are the main things. And the last one, timely, is a little bit more nuanced. There's the element of not wasting the user's time and just getting to the point. Stop yabbering on about for pages and pages about your thing, your service, your whatever it is. So just be respectful of their time and help them go through that process of making a decision in a really timely manner. What you don't want is them to suddenly go from this hot cognitive state where they are ready to buy, they want something, to suddenly overanalyzing it because you've given them way too much information, and then suddenly them going, okay, I need to think about this a little bit more, and then they go off the site and probably don't come back again. So it's about trying to make sure that you keep them in that hot cognitive state until they have converted one way or another, whether that's at the very least getting their sign up and their details somehow, or actually checking out or completing that inquiry form. So that's the smart site criteria, top level.
Interesting. And there are a lot of tools that people have nowadays on websites, such as chatbots and pop-up banners. I mean, I personally find them annoying. Sign up to our webinar. Do these things actually work in driving conversion?
Well, yes, but also no, of course. They can do, yeah. We've definitely seen the results they can have when they are done right. But if they are, so for example, pop-ups, if they are, introduced or they come up at the wrong point in the user's journey, it can have the absolute opposite effect. I think my biggest bugbear is going onto a website and never been on it before, and then the first few seconds this pop-up appears and says, sign up for our newsletter. I'm like, I don't even know what you do. I don't even know whether or not this thing is right for me. Let me make that decision first, and then definitely I would love 20% off, but I'm not going to give you my precious email address so you can spam me until I'm ready. So yeah, it just needs to be done right. And obviously with that, I think a really good understanding of the user journey and their motivations at each point in that journey is absolutely vital to be able to have an informed strategy around those kind of things. It's all very well, some people just like, just stick it up on the site and we can test afterwards. But I do think, along that way, you'll probably lose a lot of visitors. So definitely go in with an informed approach first, and then test it. There may be some split testing involved as well, and just keep an eye on those results and the key metrics.
Now that you've mentioned metrics, what metrics should marketeers be measuring?
Yeah, so I think we've covered conversion rate, top one, 100%. If that's the only one you can do, that's better than nothing. Other really important ones that can tell us a lot about how your website's doing are things like cost per acquisition. So how much are you spending to acquire a new customer? And if that cost is high, then we really, should be looking at why is it so high? Why do you have to pay so much to get this acquisition? It should be a low cost per acquisition. So there's lots you can look at on the website from that point of view. Average order value may or may not be as applicable for B2B businesses, but there certainly are e-commerce stores for B2B. So if that's the case, then yeah, absolutely looking at a high average order value. And if it's low, then obviously there's definitely things to look at, such as upselling, cross-selling, and what you can do to enhance that. The other one is customer acquisition cost. This is sort of looking at the whole thing. So it's kind of similar to cost per acquisition, but it's really looking at that overall cost and ensuring ensuring it's as low as possible and what can be done on the website to enhance that. And then we're looking at customer lifetime value. What we don't want is a one and done kind of customer, because you want them to stay loyal, you want them to keep coming back. And if that journey, if the website is a part of that repeat journey, then we need to look at how we can create a really customer base so that they do keep coming back and staying interested and following the brands and interacting with them on the website as much as possible. So those are the key metrics, I would say.
As you've mentioned about a cost per acquisition for customers. Now, what are your thoughts on landing pages? Because when companies decide to use PPC ads, they might come up with a one-page landing page. So when someone goes through to that, they'll only see one page, and then they won't necessarily see the rest of your website. So what are your thoughts around creating special landing pages?
Well, I know they work in some instances. However, I think that a customer who can have a nose around a website and get a proper feel for what you do is one that will probably convert much easier. Just to give the listeners, I guess, a bit of a background. So the idea is when you go onto a landing page, which is just a one pager, not on the main site, it's so that it's focused, and you want to capture them and keep them on the page until they convert. You want to take away the distractions. You don't want them wandering off around the website, because then they'll not convert on there. But on the other hand, there's the other argument against that is that, the ones who they may need to know that they can trust you a little bit more before they actually do that conversion. So unless it's you're not asking much of them, it's really kind of low level ask, you're not, asking them to buy or invest loads of money on that one pager, then that kind of one pager might be all right. If it's really low, just, express your interest or whatever. But if it's a sign up for something that requires investment, then I would suggest that, go give them the option of exploring your website, but make it really easy for them to come back to that landing page to complete that conversion. I think it would be important to test this first through some user testing, or even some just low spend on that ads to see which works better, because it obviously depends on loads of variables. So, but I do think that, from my point of view, if I'm the user, I do like to do a bit of research before I commit, even to just sharing my email. So I kind of look at it from that point of view and my own experience, and then kind of go off the back of that. And also, referring to the experience we've had in our own conversion optimization.
Thank you. Now, Google cookie consent version 2. If people say, right, if you don't have consent version 2, then you'll be dropped off the search engine rankings. Do you think that's the case?
I have to say, this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. It's probably more SEO. But if Google is pushing for you to do something, it's always recommended to do it. Frankly, just cover all bases.
Okay,
but don't get me started on
advice.
cookie consent, because I'm not a big fan of cookie consent. It's very damaging to the data that's collected, and you don't get a true representation of the amount of people who are visiting your website. But if Google tells you to do something, just do it.
Okay. So, if our listeners could implement just one thing that we've discussed today, what would you recommend?
Well, I would. Can I say two? I would definitely say make sure you're tracking your conversion rate at the very least. Just get that tracking set up, and then it's such a fab statistic to refer to, and to know and give you a benchmark basically on what else you can do to improve it. But other than that, I would say, get your homepage sorted. That the first 3 seconds, somebody being there, make sure they know what you do, who you are, and try and resonate with them within that as well, and just keep it very simple and straightforward. It's a make or break, but I can't tell you the number of B2B websites that I've been on and just been scratching my head going, 10 minutes later, because I have to stick around on it to do my research, but I'm going, what do they do really? Just in plain language, tell me. It's the most frustrating thing. And I think it's just that businesses are way too close to what they do and they think everybody knows, so they can be really vague, or they can just talk about an event they're doing that's coming up on that key prime area. But yeah, you're losing customers, you're losing visitors because of that. So just get to the point really quick.
I think that's really good advice, because often I go onto sites and you can tell they've been written by a copywriter, because they just tell you about the benefits of using them. And I'm thinking, okay, great to know about all these benefits, but what is it that you do? So yeah, be clear on what you actually provide. Great. Now, new for season 2, I'm going to ask all my guests a bonus question. So my question is, what's a small daily habit that you have that has made a big impact on your success, Louisa?
Posting on LinkedIn. It's not related to websites so much. And I'll give a tip, actually. I have the best ideas for my LinkedIn posts in the shower in the morning. So take a shower, try and focus on, work or whatever, and come up with a good post, and then just write it down immediately before you forget it.
Yeah, brilliant. And how often do you post on LinkedIn?
Oh, getting better. I'm aiming for every day. It's probably about 3 or 4 days a week at the moment.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's really good. And finally, if you want to get in contact with Louisa, can you share where people can find you?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, follow me on LinkedIn, Louisa Dunbar, and our website, orangegrove.uk. You're more than welcome to drop me a line at any point. Always good to connect. And I'm writing a book, actually, so you might be able to find me on Amazon soon. So
Brilliant.
do keep an eye out.
Great. And what's your book about? About high performance websites?
It is indeed How to Achieve a High Performance Website Using Behavioural Science. So the title's still to be confirmed, but we'll be launching that soon. So that's due to come out at the end of the year.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with that, Louisa, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.